Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our webinar on gluten risk management. Today, we are going to present an AOAC-certified rapid testing solution. If we go to the next slide, please. Yeah, thank you. So Cristina Romero Gonzalo, our product manager for food allergen testing at Eurofins Technologies, will guide you through on the details of the gluten risk management and allergen risk management topic. I'm Gabor Kohut, the regional sales manager of Eurofins Technologies, responsible for whole Europe for the sales. Next slide. Yeah. This is our agenda for today. We are going to start with a short introduction, and then I pass the stage to Cristina, who will guide you through on the efficient allergen risk management, gluten detection, and we'll give insights of the recent AOAC validation study which we have done. You are in listen-only mode, so it means that all the participants are unmuted. But feel free to enter your questions to the chat box or question box on the side, and we dedicate a certain time after the presentation for Q&A. So we will be very happy to answer all your questions after the presentation. So as I said, let's start with a very quick introduction of our company, which is Eurofins Technologies. And I'm sure that the name of Eurofins is very familiar for most of you. As one of the biggest laboratory service provider company. We, Eurofins Technologies, we are part of the Eurofins group, absolutely independent from the laboratory testing part of the Eurofins. We are diagnostic kit manufacturers. We were established in 2016 as a fast-growing global provider of diagnostic test kits. We offer solutions for food, feed, environmental safety, animal health, and clinical diagnostic testing. If we go to the next slide, yes. At Eurofins Technologies, for food safety solutions, we provide a farm-to-fork approach, which means that for each step of this food processing process, we offer different solutions. If you want to look for GMO contamination, foodborne or plant pathogens, veterinary dog residues, mycotoxin contamination, we offer solutions for food fraud, animal speciation. So each step of the process is covered by multiple comprehensive solutions. As we go through in this process, the later stages, the presence of allergens are becoming more and more important. Therefore, the risk management of the allergens getting to be more and more important as well. That's why we put a lot of efforts and a lot of investment to prepare a comprehensive portfolio of allergen testing kits. We did a lot of investment and efforts to improve these products and really create a portfolio which brings a lot of value to the food safety testing. Because it is obvious that the allergen risk management is a very, very important topic nowadays. And this is why we are here today. And with that, I would like to pass the stage to Cristina. Cristina, please carry on and continue from here and guide the audience through the details.
Okay, thank you very much, Gabor. Hello, everybody, and thank you so much to all of you for attending this webinar. So, as we have mentioned in the agenda, we would like to start with an introduction about allergens. And in this case, I would like to start explaining you about the difference between which is a food allergy and which is a celiac disease. So a food allergy is an abnormal response of a food triggered by the body's immune system. So this reaction may be mild, but in some cases it is very severe and maybe it can even lead to death. On the other side, the celiac disease It's an autoimmune disease that occurs when the ingestion of gluten leads to damage in the small intestine. So as you can see, both diseases are completely different in the symptoms and in the way it works in the body. So it is estimated that the celiac disease affects 100 people worldwide, and approximately between 2 and 5% of adults and 4 and 10% of children are affected by food allergies today. So currently, the only treatment for food allergies or celiac disease is to avoid any allergen in the diet during the whole life of the affected person. So food allergens may be present as an ingredient, but many times they are present via inadvertent way, mainly by cross-contamination, for example, when sharing food processing machines. So this implies that it's necessary to apply a traceability of the food production process from the raw material to the final product. So it means that the food industry needs to identify all the food ingredients, components, and additives of the product, as well as monitor any potential cross-contamination. And the best way to really control these both activities is to perform an adequate allergen analysis. So in the current European regulation, there are included the following 14 allergens that have to be labeled in every processed or packaged foodstuffs. In the case of gluten, and in this case it's only for gluten, in addition, there is established a limit for this labeling, established by the Codex Alimentarius, in a way that if the gluten content of a foodstuffs is below 20 ppm, then this food can be labeled as gluten-free. If the gluten content is between 20 and 100 ppm, so it can be labeled as low gluten. And if the gluten content is above 100 ppm, so it should be labeled as containing gluten. And a very important point is that the official method for the determination of gluten is the ELISA R5 method. In fact, this R5 method has been endorsed as type 1 method by the Codex Alimentarius. It means that it is the official one that has to be used both by the food industry and by the agro-food laboratories. Okay, so let's go to the second point of the agenda. We would like to explain you in a brief way how to perform an efficient risk management for your food allergens. So this allergen management embodies all the procedures, policies, and practice that contribute to the control of allergens within the food industry. But it should be considered as a component of the existing food safety management plan. So it should be considered like, for example, the good manufacturing process control. So to perform an effective allergen management, it should cover all the aspects related with food allergens, from the sourcing raw material to manufacturing and packaging until the finished product that is going to be sold to another industry, or maybe just to the final consumer. And for implementing this effective allergen management, it's necessary to perform an adequate and systematic documentation approach to be able to identify and control all the allergens. And two very important points and key principles and practice in this allergen management are, for one side, the cleaning, which includes all the procedures to manage, for example, the raw material spills, the cleaning of the facility, the equipment, and all the tools that may prevent the allergen cross-contamination in the place that the product is being manufactured. In addition, it's necessary to perform a cleaning validation and verification in a very monitored way. The other important point is the allergen risk review. This is a throughout investigation of the allergen status of a food product. It means that the food manufacturer needs to know all the allergens, needs to control all the allergens that are intentionally formulated into the product, but in addition, it's necessary to control any potential unintentionally allergens that could be present, usually by cross-contamination, as we have mentioned before. At this point, I would strongly recommend you to visit the web page of the Allergen Bureau, because it includes a very useful interactive tool that it can be used by the food industry in order to check if you are performing the allergen management in an appropriate way. So you can go step by step, checking all the process that you are performing in your manufacturing place, and it's very useful to see if you are doing in the correct way. Okay, so let's now go to focus in the more specifically in the detection of gluten. And for the gluten detection, we use a technique which is called an ELISA, an enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, which is based on an antibody-antigen reaction. So this reaction gives the specificity, sensitivity, and multimatrix capabilities which are necessary for being implemented in all kinds of food industry. So in Eurofins Technologies, we offer different solutions for the gluten detection. But in this case, we are going to focus only in the first one, which is the SENSISpec INgezim gluten R5, because this is the one that has been approved and has been certified by the AOAC. So for doing any kind of gluten or any kind of allergen analysis in general, the first step, and probably one of the most important, is the extraction one. So in the case of gluten, it's very important to take into account that the prolamides, which are the proteins from gluten, are not soluble in water, but in ethanol. It means that we cannot use a water-based buffer, but we need to use an ethanol solution. In addition, in the preheated sample, it should be extracted first with the extraction buffer and then with ethanol. This is because when we heat the sample, the proteins from gluten tends to form some kind of aggregates. So the extraction buffer opens these aggregates in a way that later, when incubating with the ethanol may extract with a very good recovery. And for samples containing tannins or polyphenol, like chocolate, fruit juices with very intense color, they should be pre-treated with polyvinyl polypyrrolidone or fish gelatin. This is not only for gluten, this is something general for all kinds of allergens. So to perform the ELISA step, I mean the analysis itself, we use what is called a double antibody ELISA or a sandwich ELISA. So the procedure is the following. We have the plates or the wells coated with the R5 monoclonal antibody, and then we add the standards and the samples. So during the incubation, if the sample is positive, then the proteins from gluten will bind to the antibody which is coating the plate. Then we wash to eliminate all the non-specific binding, and then we add the R5 conjugate. This conjugate is the same antibody which is coating the plate, but in this case it is bound to an enzyme that later will give us some color in case the sample will be positive. So during the incubation, you can see that this structure is formed, I mean an antibody, the protein, and another antibody, like a sandwich. This is the reason why this is a kind of technology is called a sandwich ELISA. So we wash again to eliminate all the excess of conjugate, and then we add the substrate and stop solution in a way that if the sample is positive, then a yellow color appears. So the intensity of this yellow color is proportional to the amount of protein in the sample, and this led us to perform a quantification of the amount of gluten in our samples. And how can we do this quantification? Okay, what we do in this case is just to analyze not only the samples, but in addition a standard curve which is already included in the kit as well. So we represent the absorbance of the standard curve points versus the concentration in nanograms per milliliter. Then we plot the standard curve, and then we interpolate the absorbance values of our samples in order to obtain the concentration of the samples in nanograms per milliliter. Then later we transform its units in ppm of gluten, because the legislation is written and established in ppm. So the limit of detection of this kit is 3.4 ppm of gluten. So as you can see, is very below compared with the requirements of the Codex Alimentarius for the labeling, which is 20 ppm, as we have mentioned before. So the assay can be done manually. So in this case, you have to add reagent, the washing and incubation, and finally to read the absorbance of the samples and the standards by using a reader. But in this case, the assay has been completely validated with an automated system, which is called the Thunderbolt. So in this case, the Thunderbolt is able to do all the complete process. So the addition of all the reagents, all the incubation, washing, and the final reading. And after this final reading, it performs all the calculation in order to give a full report to the end user. And this report includes the values of the standard curve and of course the concentration of all the samples already expressed in ppm of gluten. So in the web page of Eurofins Technologies, there is a video that I strongly recommend as well to visit it and see it, because you can check how easy it is to perform the assay manually, and in addition you can see how can be done the assay by using the automatic system, and how it gives you the final report to the end user. Okay, so let's go to the last point of the agenda, which is the AOAC performance, because as we have mentioned before, this kit has been granted with the AOAC PTM status for being used with gluten-free bread, oat flour, and stainless steel surfaces. So for obtaining this AOAC certification, the method has been tested for different validation parameters. As you can see below, the linearity, food matrix study, recovery, precision, LOD, LOQ, and all that you can see in the slides. And in all the cases, they have shown very satisfactory results. In addition, an independent study has been carried out by an external laboratory, in this case, Q Laboratories in the United States. And the data from this independent validation support the product claim of the method in fresh raw select food and stainless steel surfaces. So as a conclusion of the AOAC results, we can say that this validation study, the SENSISpec INgezim gluten meets the claim indicated in the procedure and method performance. And the kit shows comparable results with the AOAC reference method in different matrices and in different conditions. So just for concluding all the points that we have mentioned during this webinar, I would like to conclude that with no cure, the management of celiac disease always goes through the total elimination of gluten from diet, which requires labeling and traceability within all the food production process, from raw material to the final product. With the SENSISpec INgezim gluten, it uses the R5 monoclonal antibody, which is specific for the detection of the prolamins sequence from wheat, rye, and barley. And in concrete, it detects the gluten fraction that is believed to be directly responsible for the celiac disease. And this is the main reason why it has been endorsed as type 1 method by the Codex Alimentarius. And with the limit of quantification of 3.4 ppm of gluten, it is one of the most sensitive tests in the market. So it can be deployed in allergen risk management programs of food manufacturers, as well as it can be used by all the agri-food laboratories that want to be accredited by the ISO 17025. And receiving the AOAC performance test method status is demonstrate the Eurofins technology commitment to providing high quality and accredited test method for all our food safety customers. So thank you very much for all of you for your attention. Now we will have some time to read all your questions and of course give you the adequate answer. Thank you so much. So Gabor, please, if you can see if there is some kind of question, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Christina, for a nice presentation. And now I encourage everybody to type the questions and send us to the chat box on the side. And meanwhile, we are waiting. Let me ask you one question. If I'm a user of allergen ELISA kits, what would be the main values of the INgezim Gluten R5 kit for me for using this ELISA kit?
Yes, I think that probably the most important point is that it uses the R5 monoclonal antibody, which is the reference method. So it can be valid for not only for the food industry, but it's very important for the laboratories in order to get any kind of accreditation. And in addition, it is not only the reference one, but it is recommended by all the celiac association. And as a user of any kind of ELISA analysis, I strongly recommend to look on the easy of use and all the components are ready to use as well, and the different colors of the standards and the different reagents, which make the performance very easy. And in this case, I would like to focus again in the automated system, because if you have a very high volume of samples, it's very good, a very practical solution for this kind of analysis.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks for mentioning the automation. My next question would be that how long does it take to run two full plates in the automated Thunderbolt system?
It's about the timing is very similar if you do it manually or if you do it in the automated system. It's about 2 hours and a half, depending on the incubation and the numbers of samples. But the main advantage of the automation is that you can start the assay and you can completely forget about it and start doing some other things in your lab until it is completely finished and give you the final report. You can even give the analysis doing it by night, during the night, and you can see the result in the next day. This is something that we do it very regularly in our laboratory. So this is the main advantage, that you do not need to be all the time taking care of adding any reagent and so on. And I would like to mention that it is not necessary to do the whole plate at the same time. So we are working with breakable strips, so you can analyze several samples in one day and then to do some others in a different day. So it's not necessary to perform the whole plate, which is 96 wells, at the same time.
Okay, thanks, Christina. We have another question. What is the total time of the test without sample preparation?
It's 2 hours and 10 minutes of incubation.
Mm-hmm. All right, thanks. In what kind of formats does this ELISA kit come from?
Right now, we have it in the 96 wells format. This specific kit. But for example, as we have shown before, the other kits, one is for hydrolysis samples. It comes in the 48 wells format. But this one is in the 96 wells. But I mentioned they are breakable strips, so it's not necessary to do the whole plate at the same time.
Okay, thank you. Does the kit detect the prolamine sequence for the folded protein or also for its primary structure? Amino acid sequence.
So you mean if it detects the protein from you have to perform first the extraction of the samples, because you need to obtain the gluten proteins. So the kit detects the protein after it has been extracted from the sample. I don't know if this is just I'm answering right this question.
Yeah. If additional question on that, I will reach to that point in the chat box, so you will see. Can this kit be used for alcoholic beverages?
Okay, this one not, because this is a sandwich one. And for hydrolyzed samples, and for example for beer or whiskey, which are hydrolyzed samples, and probably many of the alcoholic one are partially hydrolyzed, then we have a specific kit for this kind of samples. And this kit is based as well on the R5 monoclonal antibody. But the design of the technique is a little bit different. It's not a sandwich one, it's a direct one. But we have a solution for this kind of sample as well, with the same monoclonal antibody.
Okay. Thank you. So next question is, does the main reference method not refer to the use of the Mendes cocktail with the R5 antibody?
Okay, no, the reference method mentioned, the ELISA R5 method, refers to the use of this kind of ELISA and the use of the R5 monoclonal antibody. In this case, we are using our own extraction solution, which anyway, it has been completely compared and completely validated compared with the Mendes solution, just to check that gives similar results, the same completely comparable results. And in addition, I would like to mention that the extraction buffer that we are using does not include beta-mercaptoethanol. So I think that it's a very good point for the end user, because you don't need to do the assay into a fume. So you can do it in a laboratory and you avoid a very small bad smell in the lab, which I know from the technician that when you are analyzing a lot of sample is not a very good point for the extraction step. And in addition, it's less toxic.
Okay, thank you. Can we use this method to replace the ATP protein swab for cleaning verification in the processing factory?
Okay, this is something completely different. When you perform an ATP analysis of proteins in a manufacturing place, this is not the adequate technique for detect allergens. Just take into account that in this case, you are detecting the whole amount of proteins. So when you want to detect any specific allergens, the adequate technique is the ELISA one, because it has the adequate limit of detection and the specificity for this allergen in concrete. So it's not only that it can substitute one to the other, it's just that the ATP is not the adequate solution for allergen analysis. It is only for the presence of some kind of bacteria or microorganisms biology or whatever, or some kind of dust in the laboratory, but not for the allergen detection. For the allergen detection, you have to use the ELISA or the immunoassays in general, maybe the strips as well, right? But not the ATP.
Okay, thank you. Then we have a question regarding cost of equipment and cost per test. For that, I would recommend to reach out to us or to your local representative of Eurofins Technologies, or via email or via the website to obtain an offer. We would be more than happy to give you this info. Then next question is it possible to obtain the AOAC validation report?
Yes, it is possible. Mainly if you are one of our customers, we are open to send the AOAC certification. When in addition you can see these comparable results between our method and the reference one, just in all the tables. So if it's possible to get it, of course, yes.
Good, thanks. Then, is it possible to analyze with this test kit swaps and rinse samples?
Yes. In the case you want to analyze rinse water samples, it's very simple that you only need to consider them as a liquid sample. That's all, and just to follow the procedure indicated in the instruction for use. In the case of swab samples, we have a specific procedure to analyze them. So if you require to us, we will be pleased to send this specific procedure for surface samples. And the only point you have to take into account for the swab samples is that you cannot quantify the amount of gluten by using this kind of samples, because you don't know how much how much amount of samples you are taking from the beginning, so it's not possible to make a quantification. But for a qualitative result, you can see if you detect the gluten above or below the limit of detection of the kit.
Okay. So can we analyze liquid and solid samples?
Yes, of course. And in fact, if you require the instruction for use, we detail in this instruction the different method to extract the gluten from solid samples, from swab samples, and from samples containing polyphenols, as we have mentioned during the webinar. With chocolate or tannins, for example, wine, red wine samples. So this is all detailed how to perform this kind of samples in the instruction of use for use in the kit.
Okay. Question regarding the limit of detection or limit of quantification. 3.4 was the limit of detection or limit of quantification?
In fact, it's the limit of quantification. So because in this case we call the same the limit of detection, the LOD and LOQ we call the same, because in fact the LOD is something that it is more calculated by a mathematical way. So we really, when we talk about limits, we prefer to talk about limit of quantification, because we think that this is a more practical one. So this is the point from the customers may really quantify how much sample, how much gluten does he have in their sample. So 3.4 is limit of quantification of the kit. You can quantify from this point.
Thank you. How many total samples can you analyze at once?
Okay,
Meaning one plate.
Yes, if you use one plate, you can analyze 44 samples by duplicate. And in this case, I would like to recommend always do it by duplicate, because this is something that not all the labs or not everybody do it, but it's important. We write it in the instruction for use to analyze every sample, maybe not the standard curve, but every sample by duplicate, because it's very important in case there are some kind of problem during the procedure, that you have a duplicate of every sample in order to detect if there's something, some odd result or some strange result. This duplicate helps you a lot to be able to detect it. If not, otherwise, you cannot really be aware that something has happened. So you can analyze 44 samples by duplicate at the same time, and one standard curve.
All right.
And sorry, if you're using the automatic system, in this case, it offers you both possibilities, duplicate or not. So in this case, as we are talking about automated system that gives you an advice in case that something is happening during the assay. So in this case, we can give we could give more freedom to do it only one well per sample. So in this case, you can analyze double.
All right. Then, if the extraction buffer of the gluten kit has some potential dangerous compound, or if the customer can work safely outside the fume hood?
No, it can be used with no problem outside the fume hood. And this is the way that we are using, and all our customers are using it. So it's not only because of the smell, this is because it's not dangerous. So and the component that not evaporates. So you can use it with no problem out from the fume hood. Yes, it's safer that the Mendes cocktail, which contains beta-mercaptophenol, which is highly toxic, and in addition, it has a very bad smell. And another point that I would like to mention is that the pH of our extraction buffer is more adequate to be able to extract the proteins from gluten, which always gives us a better results compared with the other one.
Okay, thank you. Does the AOAC validation apply to equipment or manual or automated platform? Does the certification cover the automatization of the method?
Okay, the certification covers the method itself. So it's just because the instruction for use is independently of the way that you are using it. You can do it manually or you can do it automatically, but the certification covers the procedure, and the reagents, and the kit itself. So you can use it as a certified kit, both if you are doing manually or you are doing in a Thunderbolt or any other automated system, because it is internally, we have validated with the Thunderbolt, but we have adapted it to other different automated system, like the ChemWell, for example, in some of our labs. So it can be adapted to another automated system as well. But the certification is applicable as well. It's only for the kit.
Yeah, so it's independent. So the AOAC certification validation independent from the methodology you are applying. It's manual or automated.
Yes, it depends. Then it depends on the. This is more applicable if you are a laboratory and you want it to be accredited. Then you have to take into account how do you perform the analysis. But if you follow the instruction for use, the AOAC applies on it, and it is the same independently of how do you do it, just if you follow the instruction. And the automatic system follow the instruction for use of the kit.
Great. Okay. Are there any starting raw materials that require further treatment before analysis?
Okay, so probably if you have a minimal equipment of a lab, there is probably you have all the necessary material, because it's only the tubes and the pipetting for destruction or for adding the reagents. So the most, if you are going to do it manually, for example, if you are a factory, a food factory, so probably what you really need is a reader. This is the most, how to say, the complicated material. But in fact, there is currently there is not complicated to obtain readers, very easy to use and very not very expensive. And even there are some that they do not read the plates; they only read strips. And as the plates are breakable and the strips are breakable as well, and so you can take it out from the frame of the plate, and you can use it in a reader that can only read strips. Oh, so this is a possibility as well. So, but anyway, now the reader is not a very complicated system, and this is the main thing that you can need. The rest of the material is the tips, the pipetting, and the general material of every laboratory.
Okay. Another question: do you have data comparing the performance of your kit with ArBioPharm's one?
Okay, this is what we have done, and very intensely and very truthfully for the AOAC certification. So in the AOAC certificate, there is a lot of comparable results between our kit and ArBioPharm. So yes, we have done it.
Okay. Is your kit / method approved by Codex?
Yes, because as we have mentioned in the presentation, the Codex endorses as type 1 method the R5, the ELISA R5 method, and it is an ELISA R5 method, sandwich ELISA. So it is completely approved by Codex, and it is the one recommended by the Coeliac Association. So this is the reference one. This is the official one.
Okay. How can we see the video contained in the presentation?
Okay, yes, please, because in this case we have not put the video because it's maybe it's only 2 or 3 minutes. I'm not completely sure, but yeah, we didn't want to delay a lot because now we have time, for example, to answer all your questions. But if you go to the Eurofins Technologies website, and you get into the INgezim SENSISpec INgezim gluten page. So there is a link below to the YouTube, and if you click in this link, you can see the video.
Yes, and we will share the link of the Eurofins Technologies YouTube channel further on, so you will be able to watch there as well. Okay. Next one, is there the intention to extend the scope of AOAC PTM approval beyond bread and oats?
Okay,
and go for OEM approval, and when?
Okay, the idea is to extend the PTM for more kind of samples in the future. This is the idea, and in the future, but we don't have a time, a deadline yet. We would like to get the OMA. This is the final idea, but this is not something that we will be able to get in the next future, because the OMA is too much long process, and probably it will take some time. But we feel sure that we will be able to get it as well.
Okay, what is the method to analyze colored samples?
Sorry, colors?
Colored. So
to detect the color of the wells, probably.
So probably inhibition or something which can cause by
So
food
yeah, in
coloring.
this case, yes, this is the method for samples containing polyphenol or tannins, because we are always talking about samples which have intense colors. So you can think about red wine, you can think about a fruit juice, for example, of strawberry or some intense colors. So these molecules used to cause some kind of interference. So this is the method. We have mentioned that you have to use the polyvinyl polypyrrolidone and fish gelatin in order to eliminate this interference compound, and then to avoid any kind of disturb in the result of the assay. But this method is already explained or included in instruction for use of the kit as well.
Okay. Are there any available PCR kits for detection of gluten? I think
okay, no. I know that there are some PCR kits for detection of allergens in general, but in this case, I would like to say that we are talking about proteins. I mean, the cause of the allergen or allergic reaction, or in this case, the cause of the reaction in the celiac disease is a protein. It's not the DNA. So when you are doing a PCR, you are obtaining a result in copies of DNA, and then you are not obtaining the results of the real protein, which is the real protein content of the samples. And in addition, if you obtain the results in copies of DNA, then you have to transform this to ppm, because the legislation is in ppm of protein. And this transformation or this calculation is not so accurate. So we really recommend the use of an ELISA for the analysis of allergies, because what we want to detect is the protein, not the DNA.
Okay, thank you. The method could detect prolamine from oat?
No, it does not detect the adenine. But in fact, in the codex, which is really mentioned that should be detected, are the prolamine from wheat, rye, and barley. And we know that this is a very complicated issue, but in many countries, the adenine and the oats are recommended to the celiac people just as an option or as an alternative to the gluten. So we prefer that our kit does not detect it, because sometimes it can lead to overestimated of the samples, of the real gluten content of the sample.
Thank you. Can methanol be used for solvent during sample preparation?
Methanol? No, we've never tested. We always use the ethanol. I think that probably with methanol there's another issues that we have not checked, but we always use ethanol. It's diluted. In fact, it's in an 80% percentage, and this is the only extraction solution that we have used.
Okay, thank you. How would you recommend to handle allergens that are not detectable after heat processing during production?
Okay, so in the case of gluten, we happily we do not have to face this problem, luckily, because with the heat process, after the heat process of the sample, so this is why we use our extraction buffer, and this is what we have to explain it, how to deal with this kind of preheated matrix. With the rest of the allergens, it depends of the kind of allergens, because some of them are very resistant to heat treatment. for example, like casein or some other. And in some case, it depends of the kind of antibody that we use. So in general, in Eurofins technologies, what we are doing is adapting all our kits to all the possibilities of preheated samples and perform the corresponding validation and adaptation to this kind of sample. For example, we have now a new kit for soy detection that is giving very good results with all the treated samples. And this is the idea with the rest of the kit.
Good, thanks a lot. Is distilled water enough for washing the plates at the washing step, or there is a special washing solution needed?
There is a special washing solution in the kit. So we do not recommend to use still water, because even and not this because it can give to false results. It can give to some problems in the results. But we include in a kit a bottle with a washing buffer that is concentrated, because if not, we should include a very big bottle. But once you dilute it, you can use it until the expiration date of the kit, and this is the one that has to be used. And the kit and every lot of kit is validated with this washing buffer.
Okay. Then the next is what is the maximum quantity level of the kit? Probably the maximum amount.
Yeah, the kit can give you an accurate result between 3.4 ppm and about 200 ppm. If we are talking about a very precise result. In fact, the kit can quantify any amount of gluten. You should only have to dilute the sample enough just for the results will be able to fit into the standard curve. But then, for example, if you have a sample which contain a very high amount of gluten, we are talking about a cake or a cookie with wheat, you have to dilute a lot. The problem is that later you have to multiply by a very high factor. And so the result is not going to be so accurate. But anyway, in this case, we are talking about samples that probably contains gluten like an ingredient. And the kit has been designed to detect the gluten as to detect traces of gluten. So as mentioned, the accurate range is 3.4 ppm until 200 ppm.
Okay. Do we need a special software to quantify samples?
In fact, not. We use an Excel sheet that we have available for customers, which is not a very complicated one at all. So when customers require it, we just send it. You only need to put the values of the standard curve and the values of the samples, the absorbance of the samples, and then the Excel sheets give you the final result. So it's not very complicated to do. You don't need a special software. The automated system, of course, it has an internal software that gives you all the results and make all the calculation, but it is already included in the Thunderbolt system.
Okay. Yes. So can I adopt and use this method in the internal factory lab instead of taking samples to an external laboratory?
Yes, this is the idea. This is the idea of the kit, because we know that many factories are every day or every batch or whatever sending samples to an external laboratory and they are waiting for many time to obtain the results and be able to free or to ship the final product to the supermarket or wherever. So the idea of this kit, if you have a minimum equipment of laboratory, that you will be able to perform your own analysis and your own internal control. Maybe you can send some sample for an external laboratory in order to compare or just to check, but it lets you to have an internal control, and not only for the final product. As we have mentioned during the webinar, one of the most important points of the allergen management is to have a very strict control of the whole process. And it is very important for a food factory, because if you see a positive result and you are controlling the different points of the manufacturing process, you can see where this contamination has happened. And you don't have to go back again to the whole process to see where the problem is. So yes, this is the one of the aim of the kit that has to be can be used by the manufacturers.
Okay. What do you recommend using in a food production plant, ELISA or lateral flow device?
Okay, it depends on the needings, and it depends on the size of the manufacturing site. It depends on many factors. But if we are talking about a small company, which is not a very big laboratory, okay, in this case we can recommend the lateral flow devices, which in fact this is something that we have available as well in the Eurofins technologies. But you always have to take into account that with these lateral flow devices you cannot quantify. So you can have an internal control, but in this case I recommend just to send several samples to an external laboratory in order to check the real content of gluten in case you get a positive result, for example. If you have a minimum equipment of laboratory, the ELISA gives you a more accurate results, and you can feel more. You are not depending on the visual reading. You really have data to even not only for you, but even to show you to the auditors when they go to see your controls and your internal allergen management.
Okay, we have our last question now. Is this kit AOAC certified just for wheat, barley, and rye, or all the gluten-containing foods?
For what? Sorry.
So, is this kit certified just for wheat, barley, and rye, or all the gluten-containing foods?
No. The wheat, rye, and barley is what the antibody detects, and the proteins from wheat, rye, and barley, it's the only one which contains gluten. So it's not that the kit is validated for this kind of matrix. The kit is validated for a lot of many matrix, for a very wide kind of matrix. But this is these three matrices are the one that contains gluten, and this is what the antibody and the kit detects, the proteins from gluten. But you can use it in milk, in meat, in other cereals, in cookies, in any kind of food that you can imagine. So and now that we are working with customers worldwide, I have to say that we are receiving very different kind of samples from every part of the world, and so the variety of samples and the validation that we are doing is very wide. So you can use it for almost every kind of sample.
Okay, thank you very much, Christina. There are a couple of questions regarding price and availability. Indeed, feel free to drop us an email or contact us via the website for offers. And yes, we will send out the presentation and the recording to you later on. And with that, I thank you, Christina, for the nice presentation, and thank you very much for all the attendees for the participation and for the attention today. And with that, I close the call and wish you a nice remaining day. All the best to everyone. Stay safe and goodbye.
Okay. Thank you so much to all as well. Goodbye.